Hi, thank you for joining us. This is Tomlyn Live, and today Dr. Lowe is going to be talking about summer issues. I'm Tabitha Cromer, Marketing Manager of Tomlyn. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. And I also wanted to let you know, always check our Facebook page and other social sites because you can get great products and great things such as the Tomlyn hat and the Tomlyn water bowl. So with further ado, let me introduce you to Dr. Lowe, our veterinarian, and if you have any questions, please type them out and we will respond as soon as we can, and definitely be sure to react to any of our questions. Thanks so much. Thank you again for joining us.
Hello again, folks, and welcome again to Tomlyn USA's Facebook Live. My name is Dr. Jim Lowe. I'm the Technical Services Veterinarian for Tomlyn USA. My job here is to support Tomlyn by getting information out to the pet owners about what our products can offer for them and what the benefits are to their pets. What we're going to talk about today will be mainly focused on heat-related issues, skin and fur issues, but certainly feel free to ask me just about anything. I was in private practice for 18 years, trained at Texas A&M University. I'd like to say hi to my wife and daughter back in Georgia. As you may know, a lot of times there's some controversy with my daughter and our 4 cats as to who is going to be the face of our Facebook chat. She always has her pick, and then I always pick the wrong cat. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I should say, I'm traveling this week, so that is not going to be an issue, but did want to say hi to them. And so we will just get started, and again, feel free to comment and ask any questions along the way, and we'll get started.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Dr. Lowe. One of the questions we have is, do dogs sweat in hot weather?
Actually, animals do sweat, but they don't sweat like people do. Their sweat glands, and there are very few of them, are actually in the pads of their feet. So on one note, it's always important we protect those feet, especially on hot surfaces. Tomlyn offers a product called Protect a Pad, which is a lanolin-based product to protect those pads from, say, hot concrete and things. But really, mainly the way, especially dogs and cats for that matter, expel heat is by panting. So certainly when you're watching your pet and monitoring them for discomfort or evidence that they're getting too hot, you really want to pay attention to those breathing patterns. How aggressively are they panting? Are they seeking shade? Are they seeking water bowls? Are they trying to get back inside? Those would all be evidence that things are beginning to get a little bit too hot. When it becomes very dangerous, however, is when you begin to notice signs that the heat has been beginning to affect their coordination. Are they looking dizzy? Are they looking faint? Are they looking wobbly? Because certainly with severe heat exhaustion and heat stroke, we can begin to see neurologic types activities, and that is a definite emergency requiring you to visit your veterinarian as quickly as possible.
So what should they do if they do notice this? So for instance, one time I was doing a fundraiser as a pet walk, and some of the long-haired dogs did get overheated and they started doing the excessive panting and things like that. So at that time, what should you do? Just get them in the shade? Should we pour water on them? Or?
Absolutely. I think the first step is to get them out of the heat as well. You want to do that gradually. Certainly if you're going to immerse them in water or apply water, it needs to be lukewarm to cool at first. You certainly don't want to change their temperature too dramatically, too quickly. Certainly you can take ice packs, say bags of ice, place that in between their legs, place it around their feet, place it along their belly, areas that have less hair, I should say, and that'll certainly also begin to cool them off a little bit more quickly.
Okay, great. Well, how about shaving pets? You know, I hear all the time, oh, I'm going to shave my dog because it's getting hot. I mean, do you recommend that people should shave their animals during the winter?
I think certainly there are breeds, especially this time of year, that really appreciate having much of that coat removed. I say this with the, I should say though, it needs to oftentimes be done by a professional. The misconception is in shaving an animal that you literally do shave them down, but there needs to be some hair left over. If you shave them too closely, you can actually set these animals up for sunburn issues. And you can actually defeat the purpose, because with no hair to insulate them, they become much, much hotter much more quickly. Certainly if we don't shave them short enough, then we've somewhat defeated the purpose. But I think shave done by a trained professional where they leave enough of that coat, certainly it makes these animals more comfortable and it certainly makes grooming and bathing them much easier.
Would you say the same for cats? I mean, do cats need
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think many of the long-haired cats are benefit from that, especially if they become a little bit matted. I think many times it gives us a chance to start over and start with a nice fresh coat that we can start to groom properly.
Okay, great. Well, you know, it's tick season now, and fortunately my cats are inside, so hopefully I will not bring in any ticks, but I've had to deal with ticks in the past, and it's not fun. So if an animal is a dark color, what's the best way for checking ticks? Like a black lab or...
Sure. I think manual inspection is still going to be the best. You can really focus on the ears, the less haired areas, the insides of the legs are going to be areas where you're most likely going to see them. Certainly remember, as we had talked about earlier, we don't want to be touching those ticks with our bare hands. If you're going to be trying to remove them, you would certainly want to use tweezers, certainly would want to wear gloves to avoid any transmission of any tick-borne disease. My best recommendation would be to consult your veterinarian about getting on a very solid flea and tick control. With all the technology out there, many of these tick products now, upon killing that tick automatically releases from the skin as well. Then with a bath, it's removed, and that's usually going to be the most effective way, because even in trying to remove them manually, you can sometimes leave the head in, and then you're going to have a sore and irritation later on down the road.
So how often should we be checking for ticks? So let's just say that one of our dogs, they like to go roaming, we take them out for a walk in our yard. Should we check them on a daily basis, or is it okay if we check them on a weekly basis?
Oh yeah, I think it's on a weekly basis. Now, if you're in a more rural environment where your animal has access to the barn and the woods and things, almost daily sometimes. Ticks need to be attached for about 24 hours roughly before they're going to begin to transmit certain things. That's why even in people that I've learned from the human professionals that I know, checking yourself daily is so important if you're in tick endemic areas, because if we can keep that tick from attaching for more than 24 hours, the potential for transmission of disease is much less.
Okay. And remember, viewers, if you have any questions, just go ahead and type them out, and we will try our best to get to your questions. The next question we have is, can dogs and cats get dandruff?
Absolutely, and dandruff is simply just dry skin, and so dry skin can be caused from a variety of things, from certainly diseases to allergies to excessive bathing, where we've actually removed the natural oils that these animals have, to excessive swimming with the chemicals can sometimes dry them out. But that dry skin is usually a secondary condition, so certainly we would want to address any underlying causes, and then certainly putting some kind of moisturizing type shampoo and or conditioner. There's even leave-on cream rinses now as well, will alleviate that dry skin, make the health of that skin more normal, and give that animal some comfort.
So, like my cats, for instance, I've always heard that darker colored animals, specifically cats, get more dandruff. Does that seem to be true, or?
I think it's simply that it's just easier to see. Quite
okay.
honestly, absolutely. I think it's just the color thing, absolutely.
So, I've had veterinarians tell me in the past that maybe I could use fish oils that could help.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt now that the fish oils that are available are very nice for a nice shiny coat. They give the body and the skin the necessary oils they need, so we don't have that dry skin. So certainly, besides their anti-inflammatory benefits, I think certainly for routine maintenance and maintaining a good coat, fish oil supplementation is absolutely recommended in many cases.
Okay, good. One thing I've been trying lately is the skin and itch that we have from King Bio. And actually what I like about it is I just pour a little half capful in the water, and my cats lick it, so it's no stress on them. And I started it on last Friday, and I've actually seen a difference because they've had the itchy skin. Since we live in Texas, it is quite warm.
Right.
So I've actually appreciated it being a pet owner, where it's just so simple. The only time I have to add the product is when I change the water.
Right. And what she's referring to are these products by King Bio, this all-natural pet. These are homeopathic products. Homeopathic science has been around for hundreds of years, and again, very, very safe. It's water added, and what happens is with the addition of these products over time, we see many of the same benefits that we often can see sometimes with conventional medicines. Again, administered in the water, we're not having to do anything manually to administer this. And as people are looking for more natural ways of addressing certain issues, we have a long line of these products on the homeopathic side that might provide y'all some benefit.
Let's talk about shedding. I know my cats shed a lot. I try to brush them on a regular basis. Is it more common that they shed in the summer because it's hot, or?
I think so. Remember, shedding is a natural occurrence. There's a cycle of hair growth, then the hair falls out and it's immediately replaced by new hair growth. So I think certainly with heat, that cycle is sped up. What we're much more concerned about is when we begin to notice hair loss, shedding, and there's no replacement of that hair, and we begin to see areas of hair loss. That would indicate a condition where there is potentially something going on. Certainly, I think many times with excessive shedding, we also want to look at the nutritional level of these animals, what their diet is like. But in general, I think with heat, they're trying to lose some of that hair, but it's going to be replaced pretty naturally. Certainly, when we're looking at cats and that excessive shedding, then there's going to be excessive grooming, and with that can certainly become hairball issues. Certainly, Tomlyn offers a variety of hairball remedies that have been around, kind of the standard on the market for years. That'll certainly benefit that. So if you're noticing this time of year your cat shedding more, grooming more, certainly a hairball product on board is going to perhaps benefit you and not have to deal with the problem of those hairballs.
Another thing I keep reading about is hot spots, because the hot weather. So
Sure.
I guess one question is, how do you know an animal has a?
Oop, there it goes. Back on. Be back. I think we lost connection for just a moment, but here we are again. The question was about hot spots, and certainly this time of year, that's something that we really worry about quite a lot. And the hot spots is a common term for an area of what we call acute or very rapid onset moist dermatitis. These are raw, red areas that are really gunky looking, really moist looking, that an animal continues to irritate time after time. And just as we talked about dry skin, hot spots are a secondary problem, meaning they are secondary to something. The skin is our first line of defense when it comes to our immune system. Same thing for dogs and cats. When something like flea irritation or a skin disease or an abrasion or something breaks that skin and the animal begins to lick, then that skin barrier has been broken, and the bacteria that normally live on the skin of your dogs and cats have access to the deeper layers of the skin. With that, we get this soreness, we get the redness, we get more licking, so it turns into a little vicious cycle with more and more licking, more and more infection, and a nastier looking wound. So certainly what we offer at Tomlyn is something called hot spot spray, for lack of a better word, and that hot spot spray really treats 3 different conditions. One, it does apply a disinfectant to the surface of that skin to try to address some of that bacteria that are there. Secondly, it contains lidocaine, so it's going to make those areas much less sensitive, make that animal feel better, because these are very painful lesions. And it also has a deterrent in there to the licking, a bitter taste to it. So we're trying to address that cycle 3 different ways. Again, that's going to alleviate the immediate discomfort, allow that to heal, but it's going to be important whether it's an allergy or flea issue or something that we consult with our veterinarian about what the underlying cause is.
Great. We have a viewer, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce, for sending us a question. He asks, are certain dog breeds more likely to get hot spots?
You know, Bruce, I'm not sure if it's specific dog breeds. Certainly, I think the longer-haired breeds sometimes hide them better, and we're sometimes shocked. I know I was in practice when you begin to shave some of these animals because the owners are complaining of itchiness and things. You can find these massive areas of hot spots. Certainly, some dogs, poodles, Yorkies, West Highland Whites are much more prone to allergies, and with allergies comes skin irritation. Skin irritation gives us opportunities certainly for hot spots in general, you bet. But almost any dog with some sort of underlying condition that causes them to begin to irritate their skin can be set up for hot spots.
And the allergen you mentioned is only for dogs?
That is correct, yes. Allergen is only, unfortunately, the ingredients in it are not recommended or indicated for cats. It is a dog-only product.
So how about cats then with hot spots?
Cats can certainly get hot spots. They tend to be a little more fastidious groomers. They tend not, especially if they're indoor cats, exposed to potential traumas to their skin. but they can certainly get hot spots, again, areas of infection on their skin. They're going to resemble, maybe on a much smaller scale, what you would see on the dog. And again, would recommend you consult your veterinarian about proper treatment of that wound, as well as addressing what the underlying cause might be.
Great. Now, when we talk about, summer issues, the dogs, they always love to go out and swim in the pond and grab a fish and things like that. So let's talk about a dog swimming. First of all, do all dogs know how to swim? Or do we need to be careful of puppies?
I think we do need to be very, very careful. I think all dogs have the ability to swim for short periods of time. We have an English bulldog, and that's the greatest fear of my family, especially my little girl, is our English bulldog. Should he ever get to the water, would he be able to swim? And I think Biggie could swim for a short period of time, but certainly I think in general, it's important to keep animals away from the water unless we're with them, unless we're monitoring them, unless it's a breed we know likes the water. So can animals swim for short periods of time? Potentially, but it can become very dangerous very quickly for some breeds, especially those that may not have the stamina to withstand the kind of energy it's going to take to keep themselves afloat.
Okay. Well, how about, so if they do swim, so I have a little human. She loves to swim in the pool, and I know the doctor said that I just need to make sure that her ears are cleaned out so she doesn't get ear infections and things like that, because she loves to swim underwater. So with dogs, is that something similar?
Absolutely, absolutely. Our daughter too would rather swim than walk, I think, and just as many of you with kids will know, this time of year ear infections are very common. Because our kids are in the water almost every single day. And it's the same thing with our animals. What we need to remember is the ear is a perfect breeding ground for bacteria at any given time. There is a normal amount of bacteria in the ear. It's a dark place, it's a moist place, it's a humid place. When we begin to add excess moisture to that, we just fuel the fire for growth. So what we would like to do is try to keep that environment in that ear as less conducive to such infections as possible. And what we can offer with Tomlyn is a product called Ear Cleansing Solution. And what this product will do with one administration, it's going to clean that ear, it's going to remove that excessive wax, and if it's in the case of a pond or a lake, remove a lot of that debris that may be in the ear. It's going to dry that ear, because again, the drier we can keep that ear, the much less likely we're going to have bacterial overgrowth. It's going to also acidify that ear. Bacteria, or at least most of the bacteria in that ear canal, tend not to like an acidic environment. So it's going to acidify that ear just slightly, and it's also going to deodorize it, make it cleaner and smell better. So this can be used absolutely routinely, weekly, after a week at the beach, after you catch your dog in the pool and you want to clean them out, after bathing, again, to manage that environment, that ear, to keep that canal more healthy.
Yeah, you made a great point about the pool. So some people allow their dogs or animals to swim in the pool. I mean, is chlorine, is that okay for them?
I don't think it's okay. I mean, I think certainly animals, we had black labs growing up. You couldn't keep our black labs out of the pool. And the way those coats are made on labs, it repels water much easily. We're not getting the penetration. But I think for most animals, that chlorine and those chemicals can be very sensitive to them. So if we can't keep them out of them, I think it's important that we rinse those animals off really, really well after they bathe, or after they get in the pool, I should say, so we remove as much of that as from that coat. Also the eyes as well. Just as the chlorine can irritate our eyes, it can also do them. And we actually have an ocular rinse that you can use, just like similar products that we would use to clean our eyes out. And I think it'll really cut down on some of the irritation you may begin to notice in your dogs and cats.
Okay. Someone had brought up about shaving their dog. They'd like to shave their dog for the summer, but the dog won't sit still. So what do you recommend?
Extreme patience, and probably what you have to understand, it's not just, it may simply be the sound of the clippers. Obviously it can sound pretty scary to animals that aren't used to them. Certainly, depending on the condition of the coat, it can be a little bit painful if they're heavily matted. So it's something that perhaps something like our Relax and Calm Chew, which is just going to make them a little bit more relaxed, which is going to alleviate some of that anxiety, might help a little bit. Certainly, I think that might be also something that you want to consult with your veterinarian and your groomer as well, because it may be a two-pronged attack if it's something that really needs to be done. But patience, repetition, maybe hitting those clippers periodically at different times of the day and not actually trying to groom the animal. So perhaps we can begin to get them used to the sound of those clippers, and then starting very, very slowly. But if it's an older animal that's pretty much set in their ways, it can be very, very tough.
Okay. Let's see. We had talked a little bit about with the heat and for animals either going in or maybe staying outside. Do you recommend them on a certain type of diet? I mean, obviously a lot of water. Do they need, besides shade and water?
You know, I don't think so. I think you're going to find, just as in people, supposedly, when the hotter times of the year, animals tend to eat less. So I don't think it's going to be a shock if you're seeing your animal consume less than he or she might during the winter time. They just don't feel the need or the caloric demand. They don't have to generate that kind of body heat. So I think within reason that's absolutely normal. Now, for whatever reason, with the summer parties, with activity, with you being gone a lot on vacations, if we feel like we're stressing these animals out, and with that their diets are being affected, then certainly we may want to address some of that anxiety with something like the Relax and Calm. There's always the NutriCal, which is kind of the standard of Tomlyn. It's been there forever, which is just a high-calorie paste. They will always get a few extra calories in them as well. If we're worried they're not getting enough to eat and it's affecting their attitude and their demeanor in general.
Okay. And then pretty much like with cats, same thing, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. An indoor cat that's not going outside at all, their environment's pretty static. I wouldn't expect any changes at all. And I don't think there's any reason to have to change their diet. And again, always have plenty of water, have access to shady areas where they can become comfortable should they feel like they're getting a little hot.
Okay, so you mentioned with the warm weather how cats have a tendency to lick themselves because they're good groomers.
Right.
And they could possibly get a hairball. Are there any signs to look for cats if they know they're going to have a hairball?
Cats with hairballs will gag and cough and sputter to beat the band, and that's probably what you're looking for. Again, in a perfect scenario, what Laxatone will do, what the product is made to do, is to ball up that hair and allow it to pass safely through the digestive tract and to be deposited in the litter box. A cat that's gagging and hacking and spitting is trying to have it come out the mouth, and with that, it's great difficulty, and you'll either hear that or you'll notice the evidence on your favorite new carpet.
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
Correct.
Okay, and the fans, just type any questions that you have for us, or we're going to wrap it up in the next couple of minutes, and we'll definitely try to get to your questions. Someone had a question regarding, multivitamins for animals. I mean, is it something, do animals need it? Is it usually in their food? Because nowadays doctors are saying stay as healthy as you can. It's going to help your immune system from getting sick. And so sometimes I think, well, I might not need a multivitamin because I eat fruits and vegetables, but is that the same for animals since we can't necessarily give them a salad? Is it in their diet?
I think it depends. I think certainly there are varying levels of quality in dogs and pet foods, and if for whatever reason we perhaps can't feed a top-of-the-line necessarily or the highest quality dog food out there, I think certainly multivitamins are going to be recommended. Multivitamins are also going to fill in the gaps in certain areas where perhaps some of our foods may not meet all those nutritional needs. Multivitamins in general are now very easy to give, and again, it's going to fill in some of those gaps where there may be a deficiency, but I think it's really on a case-by-case basis, and that might be really something to visit with your veterinarian about, again, given your pet's current health status, what their diet is, what their activity level is, and just what their lifestyle in general is.
Great, okay. And then just to wrap it up, we may just want to reiterate about how hot it is outside and not to leave animals in the car.
Yeah. It cannot be emphasized enough, how dangerous the heat can be this time of year. Certainly, traveling with animals this time of year, we need to keep that air conditioner on at all times. We do not want to leave these animals in closed-up cars at all, even with the AC. I can speak from experience with our bulldog. Even with the AC going full blast, it can get a little hot towards the back of those vehicles. So certainly, it's something we want to watch. Think about adding ice cubes to your water that sometimes stimulates animals to want to drink better. You can put crushed ice in these water bowls. You can't have too much water out there because many times by the time you begin to notice some of these signs of heat stroke that we talked about, the dizziness, the fainting, things like that, it can be much, much too late. So again, just as we take precautions with our children and ourselves this time of year, it's just the same for the dogs and cats.
Thank you. Well, we want to thank our fans. Thank you guys for joining us, and definitely between now and our next live event, type out any questions you have, send them our way, and we'll be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.